For today's session, we're doing Vim Ventures, just invented by someone in chat. So we are going to learn the basics of Vim, or Vim Motion specifically, how to get started in Vim if you would like to learn the motions from whatever editor you're in. But I'm going to gear it towards VS Code since that's what most people here are used to and what I was used to before learning the Vim motions. And then just reasons why I use Vim. And then, like, at the end, if we have time, just go over any shortcuts you'd like to know how to do in Vim that you don't know. Hopefully I can help out with that. So the first thing, if you want to follow along, you can use normal Vim because nothing I'm going to go over is specific to VS Code, or most of it shouldn't be. But if you would like to, you can install this extension here, Vim VS Code, which is the one that I use. I put that in chat, but before I go any further, everyone can hear me fine and see fine. Everything's a good size.
Looks good to me.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, the first thing you definitely want to get started with in Vim is just practicing for more than you'd probably like to, going through the using HJKL to move around. And then is the little input display a big enough size as well?
Does the keyboard presses does it consider lowercase? Because all I'm seeing are uppercase.
It doesn't
I'm checking
consider
the layout.
lowercase. If I do capital V, it's Shift and V.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you see Shift, it might be a little confusing for some of them. Yeah, so before I move too deep into it, L is how we move to the right, H is how we move to the left, and then J is how we move down, K is how we move up. So if you're just starting out, and this maze is stolen from the Learn Vim extension, which I will link to in the end. It has lots of cool little exercises like this. Not the only way you can learn it. There's a few different ways. Or, yeah. But yeah, just practice doing this until you can get around well. I'm not going to go through the whole entire maze, but yeah, so that is pretty weird at first, I would say. I prefer it a whole lot more because I don't have to move my hand over to my mouse or move over to the arrow keys. But yeah. Any questions so far? Cool. Okay.
So far so good.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So now it's time to cheat because we don't want to just go through our maze like that. We can use count modifiers instead of typing, like now I'm typing K, 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 and J, 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 J. What if I don't want to do that and I want to jump down? I have these nice little relative lines here, so I don't have to count them out myself. So I have 10, and J will drop me down 10 lines onto this hashtag. And if I do 10K, I'm right back up where I was. So if I want to go down, I can do 9J, and I could do the same thing for L to move right. I could say like 5L, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually do that since it's kind of weird to count out how many L's there are and be that precise. So, but for moving up and down, it's pretty good. So 15J, we go back down to here. For the other ones, For moving side to side, I typically use things like W and B. W goes forward a word, and then B goes back a word. But like I mentioned before, try to just do everything the painful way with HJKL for a bit, just to get used to it. Don't make it too complicated, but I'm going to go more in depth here just to show you what there is to learn. So along with these modifiers, we can add commands to them. So D is delete. So I can do for DJ or for DC or for JC, sorry. Oh, maybe that's the wrong thing. I might have done that backwards. But going back up the painful way, if I say I don't want to do this part of the maze and I do for DJ, I just deleted 4 lines down in the maze. I use Control Z still in Vim VS Code because the Vim command or Vim plugin isn't super great at remembering what I did last. But if you were using pure Vim, you would go use U instead. So U goes back to here. Yeah, but another way to do it, we could do for CJ, and that will put us into insert mode so we can start typing. And we could do the same thing left and right if we wanted to. We could do for DL, delete 4 to the right. We can combine them with anything we want. Oh no, I've gone too far. But yeah, we got into insert mode to type with C before, but here, how would we get out of insert mode? I didn't explain that one. So I have mine bound to escape, or mine is escape that I typically use to get out of insert mode, which is just how you type. So in normal mode, you're going to move around with whatever keys. And then once you're in insert mode, you can start typing. So if I want to type below this line, I can type some words. And I instinctively typed escape. But there are some other ways you can do it. You can do Control C. You can also do Control open bracket. And all of those work. I personally prefer escape. I have escape bound to my caps lock key because I never use that, honestly. So, and then if I type that in another key, like this is currently Control until I let go. So if I type it with C, then it does Control and C. So pretty fancy. And then instead of using all these, I'll just click W so I don't have to sit here and waste everyone's time. But if we want to type to the end of this line and we type I, it goes before your cursor. So there's not really a good way to type after. So what if I want to type at the end of the line? I can use A. And you'd think it's not super helpful, but it's very, very helpful once you get used to it. There's also A and I, which do the same thing. Like if I want to do 0 to go to the front and then I, if I am at the end, I can just do capital I and it goes to the front, capital A goes to the right. But same thing here. I would recommend just practicing with A and I before you do anything super fancy with that. and make sure you know what the combinations of keys are actually doing, like how to do it without those. So if you do 0 and then I before you know how to do just I. Cool. Any questions on any of that?
Not a question, but I would recommend against getting used to using Control C to exit normal mode because you might end up accidentally closing your Vim if you're running it in a terminal. I'm sure it works fine in Visual Studio though, or VS Code rather.
Yeah, I forgot that. Good point. Thanks for the call out. Another good thing to know, escape will work everywhere as far as I know, but you might have issues with Control C and maybe Control open bracket. I'm not too sure. I've always just used escape, so I don't have an issue with it.
I think Control open bracket is it's like a terminal sequence that is equivalent to escape, so I think that's fine.
Okay.
But Control C is like in a terminal, like on Linux, it's used to suspend a process, or not suspend, but to kill like the open program. So if you spam Control C trying to get out of insert mode, you might just close Vim and whatever was running without saving or anything.
Now we're in Vim in the terminal. So if I do insert mode and escape, it
should
works.
ask you to save actually.
Okay, I'll edit it a little bit. Let's just do like space, 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 a bunch of letters. And then if I do Control C, it looks fine. And then if I
it
go
works
back,
the first time, but if you hit it again, it'll probably like try to ask you to save and close the program like that.
oh yeah, it says save all changes. If I
But it
press
looks
it a
like you
bunch, it
can actually
doesn't hurt.
spam it. Yeah, you can spam it. It'll just like give you the prompt.
Okay. Yeah, so in Windows at least it isn't a problem, but keep that in mind. Definitely. And that was a good segue to command mode too. So save is you can go into command mode with colon. There's a little I think you need to be in normal mode to go into command mode though. Yeah, you do, because otherwise you'll type a colon. So in normal mode, so make sure you press escape first. Press your colon. And then down here is a little output box for it. Not sure how visible that is, but you can type W and it'll save. And here's a little indicator up here of whether it's saved or not, and you can see it's not saved. So if I do W, it saves it. And then if I do colon Q and regular Vim, that would close it, I believe. But in here, it will just close what we had open. So we'll go over to this other file I have open. And if I close that one too, oh, I also need to write this one. So quit. And now we have nothing open. Oh, and I can't go back into command mode because I don't have a file open. That's so convenient. So going back here. But we also can do both of them at once if we want to. We can do WQ, and it will write and quit this file. So I can add in like a space here. Write quit, and it quits. And you can also do WAQ for write all and quit. So some pretty cool stuff in there. And then it was recommending using a bang, and that's the equivalent to force. Any questions so far? Okay, so at this point, we can learn about visual mode, which is equivalent to a highlight. So if I don't know if I can even highlight here. So if I toggle Vim, which is pretty helpful to know how to do in case you're learning, so you don't get stuck forever in Vim mode. So if you toggle Vim, and you can highlight, and then the little circle works for screencast mode now. But yeah, you can highlight like this and do whatever you'd like. And I can press escape. But the equivalent is done by pressing V. And then all of your regular Vim motions work. So going L takes me over here. Pressing J goes down lines, etc. So if I want to delete this with visual mode, I can go here, go over to this line, and then press D, which was our command for delete. And then just to add in some more things to the mix, if we want to copy with visual mode, we can press Y, and Y stands for yank, and then we can do P for paste, which I paste it in the middle, but yeah. Another cool one in general is you can use R to replace, which I use pretty frequently as well. We want to replace this whole line with dashes. We can do R and then dash, and they'll become dashes. Any questions so far?
Did you mention the capital A and capital I?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I must have missed it.
Up here, I mentioned that, yep, capital I goes before the beginning of the line, capital A goes afterwards, but I recommend practicing with A and I before you go super deep into it. But yeah, very useful. I use it all the time, especially in editors where it auto closes my parentheses and everything. Like if I'm doing this and it writes here, it'll have my cursor in the middle, and I'll have to go A just to deal with it.
Yep. I do that in VS Code all the time.
I turned it off just because it's not a great time. I'd rather just write it afterwards.
Fair enough.
So for the Q&A, which I have not checked since the session started, so I may as well check again. Well, I'll check it after we get through all the ones I've already seen. So how to copy and paste in Vim. I kind of went into that a little bit, but copying and pasting is pretty interesting. So if I add some more things here, if I say like hi and then keyboard smash, if I delete this line, if I delete it, it's now in my paste buffer, which is kind of weird. And I don't know if I mentioned, but P is the key for pasting. So anything you delete goes into a buffer where you can paste it again. And then something else interesting is if you do P, it pastes after your cursor. If you do capital P, it pastes before. So similar to A and I. And this one, or paste buffers is something that I get confused all the time still, and it's been a while since I started using Vim. So if I want to copy into a buffer beyond just the default one, if I do double quotes A, and then I go to yank this, if I paste, or maybe I did it incorrectly, who knows? Yeah, let's see what I'm pasting. Oh, okay, I did it wrong. So if I go here and then yank into buffer A, so double quotes A, then I can paste. And now that's in buffer A. And then if I want to do the same here, oh, I tried to do it to A. I can paste that into buffer B. And if I want to paste buffer B, I can just do the same thing the other way around. So double quotes B and then paste. And I still have buffer A to paste in here. And it's still there. It's pretty helpful, but also a little bit confusing, I would say. So if you do :reg, go into command mode and type reg, I guess, it'll show everything copied into all the buffers. So I have A and B. Here's star, which is the buffer for, or maybe it's a register. I'm probably saying that wrong. So
They're registers, yeah.
Okay, registers, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, buffers are usually referred to in Vim for open files. So like every one of your open files would be in a buffer. And then if you're copy pasting, those are usually into registers.
Well, now we can skip down here and say the substitute command's my favorite, one of my favorite things, and use that to replace all these. And now we're happy again. They're registers, not buffers. So reg to look at all your registers, and you can see everything that I've copied into different registers. So 0 through 9 are just the 0th, the last thing I copied, through the 9th last thing I've copied. So if I do 2, that's the, or if I do 0, that's the last thing I copied, and that's what you do by default anyway. Or maybe it's the just regular double quotes. I think that would be it. Let's find out. Oh, I should probably copy something different. Okay, so they are the same actually. So just regular double quotes and 0 are the last thing you copied. And then you can have your letter buffers or different characters that aren't numbers and aren't these other reserved ones, and store whatever you want in those. So the other important thing you'll have to do is copy between your Vim. If you want to copy between VS Code windows, you have to copy into your system keyboard. It doesn't have the same buffer between everything, or sorry, the same register. I'm going to keep saying that on accident. So the same register. So if I want to copy something from chat, someone put a nice diagram of HJKL. So if I want to paste that in the chat, I can't just do P because that's the last thing I copied or deleted. But I can do double quotes, asterisk, and then paste. And that will paste in that nice diagram. But with some missing, oh no, I did it wrong. With some missing spaces. But yeah, pretty helpful to know that as well. A fun thing we can do with copying all of them is we can do like 100. Let's probably not do 100. We can do 20p, and that will paste whatever we have 20 times if we really want to do that. And then we can delete it 20 times too. So pretty helpful. I don't think I've ever wanted to paste something 20 times. Maybe like a HTML element, something like that. Who knows? Any questions on anything so far? I feel like I got a little complicated recently. Okay, so the other thing I got was what's my favorite thing to do in Vim as the first Q&A question, or the second one because the copy paste was the first one. So let me grab that too, just to put it in here in case anyone watching wants to add. But just feel free to type in chat as well. Okay, so my favorite thing to do in Vim, I didn't have one specific one. I showed off the substitute command, but not too in detail. I also like working with HTML. It's pretty fancy. And then hard wraps are very satisfying. So
Could you explain what hard wrapping is?
indeed. So let's skip down to hard wrapping. So if you highlight a certain section, so capital V, capital, or is visual block, so it'll do a whole line. So this doesn't look bad because I have word wrap on. But if you ever edit this in like a PR, like you make a PR and you edit a few words in here, then it'll do this whole giant chunk of text. So I don't really know what changed where, just know this line changed. So, and there's lots of projects that have a word wrap or a line length limit. So if I highlight this and do G, then Q, it will hard wrap it at 80 characters. So pretty fancy. And I use that a whole lot when I was doing Python with very strict line length requirements. It saved a whole lot of time rather than going through this whole thing and just saying, oh, I want to wrap it here and
Well,
then there.
is that like syntax sensitive? So like if you had a couple lines of Python that were both like 200 lines long, would it just like cut off at like 80 and then you'd have to like reformat it?
Yeah, it doesn't care about code. I use it specifically for comments, but it's not as good for caring about syntax. Like if I have, I don't know, just decide to type everything on one line, it might split your words in half. Let's see if I can do like, just copy this and paste it a bunch of times. So now we have a very long line. It doesn't split between words at least, but it might not care if you have like a space between if it matters. So yeah, you should definitely use a formatter because those will care for that. But for comments, if your formatter doesn't do comments, it's pretty helpful. And you can also do it in multiple lines to mix them back together. So GQ here. Oh, didn't care about this comment. But yeah, you can, it's pretty helpful for that. I use that quite a bit. Any questions about hard wrapping? Okay, cool. So another fancy thing, I can pretty easily work with HTML with this too. Like if I'm at the beginning of this line and I do CIT, I can change inside of a tag and change whatever's in here. And I can do the same thing for the UL, just change inside the tag and start typing whatever I want inside here. Another very fancy thing that I use all the time is I wrote like a little challenge to change the first LIs to beans. So if I change in tag and then do beans, I can use the period key to redo my last action. So I can do dot, and it'll change inside whatever's inside of the current tag I'm on to beans.
Is the change tag, what was that you did?
Oh, I'm doing CIT,
Okay.
change in tag. The same thing works for lots of other things, like if you want to use a string, for example, if we do that, we can do change in quotes. So same thing here, change in backtick, maybe not. I guess it's because it's on a different line, but yeah, we wouldn't even need to worry about this because it's on a different line. But if we did have backticks, I think it would work. Yep, it does. And I think backtick should even work for any kind of quotes. Oh, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It just works for backticks, at least in this version. But yeah, very cool things like that. Just like all of the different combinations are very powerful. And you can do all of this with the same or everything that we've already learned. So like delete in quotes, we'll delete everything in the quotes. And then we can probably do replace in quotes and replace them all with like, no, we can't. That's sad. But we can still do the anything else we want to do. And it's so much faster than having to like move your mouse over and then highlight this whole thing and then deleting it manually. Oh yeah, the one other thing is a marker. So if I do A, that sets a marker called A. If I go to the top of the file and I do single quote A, it jumps right back down to where I was. And that's pretty helpful if you're working in the same file with a lot of different things going on. And for space repetition, we can do WQ. Right quit, go back to the other file. Any questions on any of those things? Cool. Okay. So somebody else asked, what is the difference between Vim and NeoVim? And they've seen both as extensions for VS Code, but they're unsure what they are. So I'm not entirely sure on the whole history of everything, but I'd recommend using the Vim VS Code extension since that's what I've used. And as far as I can tell, NeoVim is just like the real NeoVim based on the Vim VS Code extension. Or the actual NeoVim's not based on the extension, sorry. But NeoVim's based off of Vim. So confused. But yeah, Vim is the original and NeoVim is the fork of Vim. So they have different features. Sometimes they'll be compatible as far as I know, but yeah.
For the most part, I think NeoVim is backwards compatible with Vim. But yeah, like a lot of extensions and stuff might be NeoVim exclusive, depending on what features they used.
Okay, cool. Thanks for confirming. Someone else is asking in the Discord chat why or what Vim stands for, and it stands for VI improved. And I don't know why VI is called VI, but it is a improved version of VI. Oh, okay. I just Googled it and it stands for Visual Editor. Or how does it stand for Visual Editor? It's VI. Okay. Maybe someone else can confirm or deny that. Don't quote me on that one. Of course, yeah, Visual Editor. Oh, yeah, that's cool. VI stands for like the visual mode, or it's named because of visual mode, which switched it to like a more full screen mode. Oh, okay, yeah, visual interface. That makes sense. So like as opposed to being in the terminal and saying hi, whatever, and going like into actual Vim. Also, I have Vim on my terminal keybinds as well. Yeah, another question was why learn Vim? And I say it's a whole lot faster than moving your hand over to your arrow keys or from your hand to your mouse. It's a whole lot nicer in my hands because I don't have to do like the weird VS Code hand cramp exercises anymore. Like the opening up a new terminal instance is one that I think of, like Control, Shift, and backtick. Or yeah, Control tilde is open a new terminal instance, and that's not easy on my hands. And then like I don't think it's go to definition, but it's like viewing the tooltip is Control K and then typing Control I afterwards for some reason. So make like a new TypeScript file. So like I is 31. If I go over here, I can do that pretty easily. Well, this is a Vim VS Code specific thing, I'm pretty sure. Typing GH will get me that same thing, but if I want to go out of Vim mode. Oh, I have to do Control K, Control I. Oh no, okay, it doesn't work because I have set other keybinds on top of it because I don't think it's useful. My Control K is set to moving to the above editor, so like the buffer to use the word correctly for Vim. But yeah, lots of things are very confusing and unnecessarily verbose in most editors. Like lots of things are just attached to control and other things, so a lot nicer on your hands, I would say. Like your hands are on home row most of the time. Number 4, it makes you look cool. You can move around super fast in your editor and tell everyone you use Vim. And you can't do that if you don't use Vim. Another one, it's very helpful when you need to work on bare bones machines. So like if you're SSHing into a different machine and they didn't decide to install VS Code for you and you're just in the terminal, then it's very helpful and you don't have to install anything else to use it. You're just kind of there. Like if you want to use Emacs, then you have to go install things and maybe you don't have permission to install anything. So pretty helpful. Also for like text editing, it's pretty helpful. Like if you're making a git commit message and you know how to move around a little bit, it's pretty helpful. For me personally, it was very convenient swapping between Mac and Windows because I could just use control like I was using before instead of swapping to command. So I didn't need to learn new keybinds between different OSs. Any questions on any of those points or any other reasons to learn Vim?
I don't think you put enough emphasis on how cool it is. There we go. Much better.
Perfect. And look how amazing that cursor looks on an emoji. Okay, we can. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, you look super cool, and all your friends will be jealous. Okay, so how would you learn Vim motions? Also, another pretty open ended one. I personally learned it by using the Learn Vim and the VS Code Vim extension. And I spent an hour a day or so for a few weeks while I was switching jobs because it felt weird to learn Vim on the job because I'd be super slow for a while. So I waited until I was transitioning. And whenever you get stuck, just make sure to toggle it off and go figure out something else in your regular keybinds. And yeah, like I was mentioning before, start out with the basics and get good before you move on. Don't throw in like all kinds of fancy commands that let you do things in 0 seconds if you have to practice like 20 hours when you could have just done like a really suboptimal but much faster, which leads into like don't worry about being perfect. There's so many different ways to do everything. Don't be the person who like sits there for and goes, I'm going to count out 15 characters, go to the left, replace that one character, change it to uppercase, then change something else. I don't know. That's probably not a good example, but it's totally fine to just go like www and then go back. Yeah. And then this extension is very good. press the E key so many times. I like it a lot. And I mentioned I'd stolen from that, from the Learn Vim extension, but yeah, just moving over here. It has cool markdown to work through, and then like kind of website on the other side. You can follow either or both, but yeah, same thing here. And here's the exact thing I was going through before. Just practice going through this until you're comfy. And then you can move on to this other part and just keep practicing until you get it. Yeah, that's all I have for everything I've planned, at least. So, but I'm open to any questions about anything so far. And then if there's any shortcuts that you'd like to know how to do in Vim motions, let me know and I'll try and help out.
If nobody else has got a question, I think you should go over macros, or very like just the idea of them, even if folks aren't going to use them, because they're super, super useful.
How so? Or just like,
Well,
what do you consider a macro?
oh, well, I'm talking about in Vim. Usually, it's I think Q is the keybind.
Oh yeah,
So
like the
you
recordings.
you hit Q and it records all your key presses, and so you can make a bunch of edits to a line or something, and then move down to the next line, and then you can just repeat all of those steps like throughout your whole file or anything like that. Like if you wanted to add like an exclamation point to the end of every word in the line or something, you could do that with a macro. Yeah. Stuff like that.
I'm not sure how to, I forget how to replay it. Is it like a at?
I think it's at and then whatever number or key you assigned it to. So it's like Q, the number or the letter you want to assign it the macro to, and then at and that same letter, and it should replay.
So if I do Q and then like A, it starts recording at A. Then I go over here, add an exclamation mark, then press Q again. Oh, it's not Q.
Oh, you have to go into normal mode and then hit Q.
Ah, okay. And then if I do like at, oh, well, at A. Oh, yeah, that's nice. I'd probably sit there and do regex for it. Because I really like
Well, I
the
mean,
sed syntax for that.
yeah, I mean sometimes you can't if you want to have a complicated macro, you can't do like just replace.
If you memorize enough regex, you can, of course.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know regex that well to be able to do it, but I've also never thought to use a macro, to be fair.
I usually only use it when I have like if I've copy pasted a bunch of lines into a file and then like for whatever reason maybe there's like quotes I want to get rid of, but there's also like some parentheses that are like inconsistent, like it's not like always the same format, but it's like consistent enough that you can do like a few motions to like select the parentheses and remove them and then do that for every line, just so I don't have to worry about regex.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah.
Oh,
But you can do a lot more complicated things as well, just because you can do like whatever commands are recorded.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll have to keep that in mind for the next time. I have to do some parsing or like data cleaning. Okay, the add thing that I was thinking about, someone put in chat that it repeats the last executed macro. So I just had no macros executed. So yeah, it does. It adds a exclamation mark at the end of the line. Yeah, fancy. I definitely already mentioned, but just to go over it again, the find and replace is really good compared to the regular find and replace in VS Code, just because you can do a range find and replace. Like I only want these three, so I can go to command mode and then use the sed syntax to replace whatever I want to change in here. Like I can change the li to like a p if I really wanted to, but I could change beans into beans 3, and it looks really nice in Vim VS Code. Yeah. Any other questions or any fun Vim things to add on before we finish out?
One thing. So you know how in I think VS Code can do it and other editors, if you hold, I think it's like Control Alt and then click, you can select like different lines or like even different points on a line and then edit them all at once, right? So it's like you could
Multi-cursor?
control, yeah, multi-cursor, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do that in Vim that's not like a contiguous like line? Because I know you can do it kind of with like visual mode if
Yeah.
you do like Control V to do like the block mode, but I don't know if you can do it like non-contiguously.
I don't think you can in just pure Vim, but also don't quote me on it. Like, yeah, visual block, I know you can do it, but you can do it in Vim VS Code with, I think it's GB. Maybe it's not. Maybe it gets to the next instance. Oh yeah, it is. GB lets me go to the next instance and start editing it. But I don't know if there is otherwise.
Okay, just wondering.
I've
Because
never
that's
reached
one. That's
for
like
it.
the one feature that I occasionally miss from like other editors, where it's like, oh, I just want to like prefix all three of these lines with like a word or something, and I have to do it individually because they're not all in a row.
Oh yeah. Like if there's an indent between them.
Yeah.
Oh, I have multi-cursor on, I forgot. Like hi and then
Yeah, if you've got like indents or like they're, yeah, it's like just like indented for a function or something, but you want to just add, I guess in a lot of cases it's usually like a refactoring thing, so you could just use like a find replace to do it, but I feel like I've definitely run into it like other cases where I've wanted it and just had to do it manually.
there's some way to do it, but I've also never wanted to do this.
I'm sure there's some plugin that does it for you.
Probably something. Yeah, I'll look it up for a little bit and see if I can get it, but I don't. Not sure. Oh yeah, that's why it's Control V. Yeah. Oh, that's almost it. I know. Yeah, I can't find anything that's immediately doing it, and the only thing that I found doesn't work on Vim VS Code. So
Yeah, what I'm reading is that it's not really like the Vim way to do things.
yeah, I don't know. I personally have not reached for multi-cursor ever, so I really don't know.
It's pretty rare, but I just need to get good, apparently. Because yeah, all
You
the
gotta
things
get
I'm
good.
finding are replacing it with like using dot or use macros or something.
Yeah, just use dot would work too. There's a way to go into insert mode before like the first non-white space. I think that's I.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the beginning of the line. Or is it? Oh, yeah, it is just the first non-white space. I guess if you want to go to the beginning of the line, you have to do 0, insert. Yeah.
Does that count? I looked up the regex for it. I mean, I guess I didn't get the first regex thing, or like it doesn't work exactly, but it if you do anything that's not white space, so not white space like that, and it'll take the first non-white space character, and you can mess with that and somehow get the character after it. I'm not that good at
Right.
regex to get that, but yeah, regex magic, of course. Okay. Oh, someone in chat asked how we can copy and paste. So yeah, just a quick one. If we delete anything, it goes into our register, and we can select which specific register we want to do. If we just do double quotes, so I'll pick register like E for fun. And then if whatever I paste here is that last one, but if I go to register E, it's still the same one. I'll just put hi from register E. It's not register. It is register. Okay. I'm going to get confused or worry about it now. But yeah, hi from register E. That's in our normal register. But if we copy this hi, we now paste hi. But we can also go to register E and paste with double quotes, register name, and then P. And then the other important one is copying and pasting from your system clipboard. So if I take your question and then do double quotes star P, it says, how can I copy and paste one more time? And then as always, if you don't remember, you can do :reg to see what's in all your registers. Like in register 7, I have register a lot of times. Cool. Okay. Anyone else have any more questions? I feel like we're pretty good to end it here if not. Cool. Okay.